All right, guys, welcome to Seeds of Music. I'm your host, Kyle Williams, and this is the #1 web show where aspiring independent artists and do-it-yourself musicians can learn right now how to gain wider exposure, grow a strong base of raving fans, and make a living doing what they love. On the show today, I have Crista Kende from Indiegogo. She is not only an accomplished viola player, but she is a performing arts specialist at Indiegogo and is on a mission to make crowdfunding accessible and tangible for all artists. And the specific subject of this interview, crowdfunding 101 on Indiegogo. And just a few of the things we'll go over. We're going to talk about why crowdfunding isn't charity, how to build your network with crowdfunding, and Krista's going to give us the deal on how she built and launched a successful Indiegogo campaign that raised over 24,000 buckaroos to buy a new viola. Stay tuned. All right, guys, welcome to another episode of Seeds of Music. On the show today, we have Crista Kende. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
And just giving you a quick intro on top of the intro I always do. Crista is the performing arts specialist at Indiegogo and is on a mission to make crowdfunding accessible and tangible for all artists. And we're going to get the skinny on crowdsourcing 101 with her in Indiegogo. So let's start off with your background. You know, I know that you're a musician, a classical musician, which pretty much means you're probably pretty awesome on your instrument. And, how did you get into that? And how did you end up working for Indiegogo along the way?
All right. Yeah, well, I'm a musician. I've been a musician for as long as I can remember. I started studying violin when I was about 4 years old. And then from there, I got more and more serious. I was lucky enough to study at the Juilliard Pre-College for several years in middle school and high school, and continued throughout college, and eventually ended up back at Juilliard to do my master's. I'm a violist. I don't know if I mentioned that. And once I graduated from my master's, I was facing the same dilemma I think a lot of young musicians face in all types of music, and that is a real lack of traditional job opportunities. You could go to all the school you want, but very often we're faced with no job when we graduate, even with a great master's degree. So trying to think outside the box, I started looking at different ways, kind of border industries for music, and figure out different ways that musicians can get their voice out there. And I was lucky enough to have a friend who knew Indiegogo and put me in touch. And at first I just started working for the CEO as his assistant. And very soon, things started to turn, and I was like, wow, this is really an amazing idea for artists. And now I'm the performing arts specialist at Indiegogo, and I work specifically with musicians who are looking to use Indiegogo.
And so, is that the job description? I mean, for the performing arts specialist, people can just reach out to you and you just help them? I mean, how does that work?
Yeah, my position is twofold. One side of it is working one-on-one with artists who need the help, so people can reach out to me, and I provide free coaching and strategizing and brainstorming, and really help them bring their ideas into motion with the campaign. And then the second part is just letting people know that crowdfunding exists for musicians, because even though we've been around for about 5 years, it's still a relatively new thing. So really getting the word out is very important still at this point.
So there's hasn't been a lot of awareness in general for musicians that they can crowdsource.
It's definitely growing, yeah, but there's still ways to go.
There's when we talked about this, because we had a brief phone conversation about a week or so back. Some musicians kind of look at crowdsourcing not in the most positive view. They feel like it's they're getting a handout and they're not going about it the right way, or it's panhandling to them. You say this is a myth. Why exactly is that a myth in your opinion?
It's a myth for several reasons. First of all, I know as a musician myself that it's so hard to snap out of that, I'm an artist mode and into the marketing and putting yourself out there mode. And I know so many friends of mine who would rather do anything except for market themselves. So that's already a hurdle for a lot of musicians.
Yeah.
Let alone going. And also being on Indiegogo, it's a very public sort of statement. You're really putting yourself out there, and it does take a lot of courage. I totally get that. But in terms of the myth that crowdfunding is the same as panhandling, I think there are many reasons why they're different. First of all, it's all about your positioning. So a lot of musicians I work with put up campaigns or want to put up campaigns, and I tell them not to, and they say like, "Oh, I'm Crista. I really, really need your help. Please help me with this." And it sounds like you're asking for a donation, which implies charity.
Yeah. But
it's
Indiegogo
really,
isn't charity. Like, it's
we
pledging.
have charitable, right? We have all sorts of campaigns. We have some in the nonprofit sector. We have some entrepreneurial, some creative. So we cover the whole spectrum. But if you're a musician and you're really trying to put up a professional campaign, you're not asking for help. You are inviting people to join you in what you're doing, which I feel like is a very important distinction to make.
So they become kind of part of the story of what's being created.
Exactly. Exactly. So you're an artist and you have something unique that you're doing, and you're giving people the chance to join you and be a part of your artistic process.
And you said that there's like an element of fear about putting that campaign up. I mean, were you afraid because you did your own campaign?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. I did my own campaign just about a year ago exactly. I faced a problem that a lot of young musicians face, and that is trying to afford my own instrument. And a lot of people out there, even musicians, don't know how expensive string instruments are in particular.
Unless it's a guitar, though. And then you can get that cheap. But yeah,
exactly.
Was it 20? How much was it?
I raised $24,000 to buy. Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah.
I don't know many postgraduate students who have $24,000 lying around, but
is that like a Mustang or something?
Yeah.
A new Mustang? I don't know.
Probably. I don't know anything about cars, but yeah, I found this.
I don't either. I just threw that out there.
It sounded cool. I don't know. But yeah, I wanted to buy this new instrument, or rather I needed to, because I had been playing on a viola that I had loaned to me from a foundation that was generous enough to give me this great instrument for probably about 12 years. I played on this viola. And then I found myself, postmasters, had this great degree and no instrument to play on. So kind of a bit of a conundrum. So I was working at Indiegogo at the time, and I was like, well, this is the perfect chance for me to, number one, learn the platform really well from the inside out and know what it's like to be a campaigner, and then also solve this problem I had as a professional musician. So I put up my own campaign called A Viola for Crista.
Yeah, which I watched, before this I watched your video and read through it, and that was that's a really nice quality video that you made.
Thanks. Yeah, I was lucky enough to have a really good friend who was just finishing up his journalism degree at Columbia. So he knew what he was doing, and he had his camera. But a lot of times musicians come to me and are like, oh, well, I'd like to put a campaign up, but I have no idea how to put together a video or that. And we don't need to get into too many of the specifics. But what I tell people is that it's really the message that has to come across in the video. It doesn't have to be an Academy Award presentation or anything super fancy. It's really just getting across your authentic message.
So people can probably have on Indiegogo, you can browse through successful campaigns and just look at what else has succeeded and kind of like judge from that, like how far you need to take it. Because I mean, I've looked through some on Indiegogo, and it seems like it's your message just has to be strong, and as far as like your video, just make sure people can hear you clearly and you're decently lit, and you don't really need to have you don't need to be Michael Bay and blowing stuff up.
Exactly. And oftentimes musicians are super creative, and with little or no budget can do something really cool. We all have high quality cameras on our iPhones and our computers, and it's amazing actually what you could do. I'm not especially tech savvy, but I'm sure it's possible.
And plus you tapped into like your own personal network, which is I wanted to ask you, like, what were some key elements to you actually being able to successfully fund your campaign? And I'm guessing that video was one of it, and being able to fully tap into your own personal network that would support you, like you had a friend who could perfect opportunity. You said he was a journalism major.
Exactly.
To be able to do that for you. So, what were the key elements of having a successful campaign?
Right. I would say there are two main parts. There's the pre-launch, where you are putting together all the elements of your page, and then there's the actual campaign. Okay. And I would say both of those are equally important. Okay. Beforehand, you want to get together, first of all, coming up with your pitch, figure out who you are, why you're asking for money, why you want people to be a part of your project. And then you put together your video, you have your text, you come up with something called perks, which is a very important part of a campaign.
Mm-hmm.
It's basically what you give people in return for contributing to your project.
Which is why it's not charity,
Which is also why, exactly.
So why it's not panhandling or asking for a handout, because it's almost like a mini shop, like they're buying like things.
Yeah, it's pretty much a transaction between you and your contributors. And I really sat down and I thought about what can I offer people as a musician. So at the lower level, it was thank you notes, and then it went up to recordings and private lessons, and all the way up to a private concert that I perform in your home. And it's a whole range of basically skills you have as an artist. And most musicians have so much they can give back, but they don't realize they have all these skills, because to us it's like, oh, well, I go to rehearsal 5 times a week, that's not that cool. But to a person on the street, they're like, oh wow, I get to sit in on a rehearsal, that's really cool. So it's really taking a step back and looking at what you are as an artist and coming up with these perks. The first part, we kind of wandered from the question, but the first part is really setting up that campaign.
Okay.
And then the second part, which is so important, is being active during your campaign. Mm-hmm. And it's a huge myth that you can just press go live and that the money just will come in, because there's no such thing as free money. And throughout the whole campaign, you really have to be working hard to make sure the people who see your campaign are the right people, and that as many people as possible are seeing your campaign. So initially, I always advise people to reach out to their friends and family, their core supporters, people who really care about what you do. So everyone from your mom to your friends to your biggest fans. And then once you get a little traction there, I usually say about 20 to 30%, then you could start sending it out to a wider network. Maybe your more casual acquaintances, people who maybe express interest in your music at some point but aren't necessarily your most diehard fans. And then once you get a little more traction there, you can reach out to press outlets and local bloggers and anyone who's really an influencer or a tastemaker that can get the word out to people you might not even know yet.
Okay. On top of that, I want to hit up, because I'm actually looking at your campaign right now. Mm-hmm. I just kind of want to just like super fast, like lightning quick hit up just the different elements like on the page, and maybe just give us some like real quick tips on each element, how to make it work for your campaign. So like the video, you have like a 6-minute video where it's you walking through telling like your story. Like, what are some key elements for a successful video?
Sure. I would say, first of all, as a disclaimer, the one thing I look back on my campaign and think about, I think my video was a little too long. So I always advise people to go a little shorter, just because people's attention spans are a little short, and 6 minutes is pretty long. Okay. But then the main elements of my video, it's me telling about who I am and what my project is. And it shows a little bit of me playing, and you hear a little of my music, which I think is really important. If you're a musician, you should have some of your music in your video.
Yeah, obviously.
It seems very logical, but sometimes people get so caught up in, oh, well, this is my pitch and this is that, they forget they're a musician. Or maybe someone comes
and they don't, and they're like referred from a friend, and they maybe haven't heard your music. I mean, you got to cover all angles for sure.
Exactly. So your simple message: be authentic, be yourself, and have a little bit of your music in there.
Okay. On the copy that you wrote below, what was your approach for writing the copy? I see you have, it's actually not really, really long, and you have a few pictures in there. I mean, what was your approach to writing the copy right below?
Exactly, yeah. I didn't want to have just like this huge block of text, because we're bombarded with so much stuff all day, and we're always on our computer. A huge block of text is just not appealing. So I wanted to keep it short and succinct, be really clear and let people know what I was doing, but also break it up with some pictures, some images. Okay. We've got some great tools as you're building the campaign. You could probably do even more than what I did, and people have videos in there and cool graphics, and there's a lot you can play with in the text.
And it seems like you hit up, just overall view of what the project was about. Like even if they watch the video, you kind of give them a way to read that information, and then the next important thing I see you hit up is like what you get out of this, and I think that's critical, because people they're not coming for a charity; they're coming to be a part of something, to be a part of someone's story, to like have an impact. And I think that was really cool that you put that in there, and then also below you put the impact, exactly what kind of impact will they have when they donate? And going over to the perks that you had mentioned, you can choose several different level perks, and I see you've got like a 5, 10, 25, 50, 60, 80, 100, 200, 400, and $1,500 perk on there. I mean, what was your strategy for the pricing of your perks?
You want to have a big range of pricing because you're going to be appealing to people all the way from a total stranger who you might, who might get your link from a friend of a friend of a friend, who might want to be a part of it, but is not going to want to put in more than $5 or $10 maybe. So you want to have that low barrier of entry available to people. And then all the way up to the $1,500 level. You don't want to limit the upside. If someone's really passionate about what you do, why not let them, go for it?
And there are some people who were, because you actually... You would, I mean, this is what this is kind of like, I feel like I learned something like 1,500. You have 5 people that claimed that level. And it's like, if you didn't shoot, like at least have an option to shoot big, then you would have missed out on whatever 5 times 1,500 is. I'm horrible at math. Sorry, don't laugh at me.
Yeah, me too. I don't want to try.
It's definitely over 5. It's at 5. Is that 7,000 over 7,500? 7,000?
Yeah. No, it definitely. You have those passionate supporters, and there's no reason to limit them. Absolutely.
Another thing that I've noticed, because like I've just like been picking apart this campaign just to try to figure out what's made it successful. And another thing that I think that was key is you ask people to, like you said, other ways you can help. So let's say someone comes to your campaign and they're like, I like it, but I really don't, for whatever reason, the perks don't appeal to them. And, but you ask for them to share. You ask them to spread it. Was that like key for you to be able to?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that really represents everything that crowdfunding is. It's really about the crowd and involving people. And as an artist, I feel like that's so much about what the arts is. You can be in your practice room all day, but it doesn't mean anything until you connect with people. So a campaign is very much about connecting with people, and maybe there'll be $1,500 donors, maybe $5 donors, or maybe they'll just share your campaign on Facebook. It really, in the end, doesn't matter because you're really creating people who care about what you're doing.
Which kind of actually leads into my next question, which was, because in the video, along the way, you said this is Indiegogo and the campaigns and pledging money for perks. It's not just about funding what you're doing and having the impact on your career and being a part of something, but it's also about connecting with other musicians, music enthusiasts, and people in the creative community. I mean, how exactly would that benefit? I mean, what can you illustrate that benefit clearly for people watching this interview?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, as I was saying, as a musician, it's all about that human connection. And it's great if we get a grant for $10,000, but that's really just a one-sided thing. You get the money and that's it. Yeah. Whereas if we raise $10,000 from the crowd, we'll have a whole new audience that is involved in what we're doing. And we gain visibility into who loves our music, why they love our music.
Yeah.
You kind of have a dialogue with everyone who's part of your community, and you can connect with people. And oftentimes, if you're a performing artist, you're very much on the stage, and then there's the audience, whereas there's not that dialogue. And with crowdfunding, it's very two-sided, and you can go back and forth with your fans. And hopefully, people who contribute to one campaign will contribute to a future campaign and bring their friends to your concerts. And there's so many bridges you can kind of build through this human element of it.
Awesome. And it seems like having it's cool because you have like your campaign is on like a large, like well-known website, that's that people go on and they browse through, and you could probably even use your campaign as kind of a PR thing. Like you could post it on your website and say, hey, check it out, like I raised this kind of money. So that shows that to other people, it kind of gives a little bit of social proof. They're like, other people are into this artist and they're supporting them, so that he or she must be like really good. Let me check them out.
It gauges demand for what you're doing. I was talking to a really great artist manager at IMG Artists, and she was saying that one of the main things they look for in young artists is people who have already put themselves out there and have an internet presence, have videos on YouTube, and having a crowdfunding campaign is just another way to show that, you're a great artist. There's a lot of great artists, but you're actually taking that next step, and you've shown that there's a real demand for what you're doing.
they've got past their aversion to marketing, and I think that
Exactly.
that's really that's like why like having good music and talent isn't enough if you want to make a profession of music, because somewhere along the way someone has to market you, and now big labels aren't doing that. They don't, because of the fact that they're making less money, and they probably have never really cared, had music at the heart of it. But now
Sure.
with Indiegogo, that's like boom, the power's like in the hands of the artist to actually
Yeah.
market themselves on Indiegogo's platform and crowdsource to their. Of course, I think that you probably already have to have some kind of fan base. I don't think you could come on to Indiegogo and no one knows about you and be like, hey, fund my next album or whatever, and that's not really going to work. So obviously, you have to have grassroots base beforehand, which you did though, because you put in
Right.
the work.
And you can always start small with younger artists or more new artists. You can always start with a small campaign, raise a few $1,000s. You don't have to raise $100,000 off the
Yeah.
bat,
Yeah.
Start small, gauge the demand, see who's into what you're doing, and
Yeah.
go from there.
I need a new acoustic guitar. I need to raise 150.
Hey, it happens. We've had everything on Indiegogo, so there's always a chance. It's really about just putting it in front of the crowd and seeing what happens.
So there's a lot of actually crowdsourcing platforms out there. I mean, what differentiates Indiegogo, and why should a musician choose Indiegogo?
Absolutely. So yeah, since we launched in 2008, we have entered this great marketplace where we have a couple hundred of competitors at this point. And
Wow, there's
at this
that
point,
many?
I know crowdfunding is huge. It's exciting,
I
which
knew
is
there were a
I mean
lot,
it's
but I didn't
exciting.
know there's that many.
Yeah, it's exciting for us because it
Okay.
shows that there's a real human need for what we're doing.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, there are several differentiators that make Indiegogo really well suited to artists. I think especially the number one is flexible funding, and this means that whether or not you reach your goal, you can keep whatever you raise.
Okay.
So a lot of other sites have something called fixed funding, which we also offer as an option, but that in that case, you either reach your goal or you don't. And if you reach your goal, you keep the money, and if you don't, it all
Okay.
gets returned to those who pledged it.
What did you
So
use for your campaign?
I use flexible. I think
Flexible?
unless you really have campaigns that use fixed funding are more often maybe, let's say, in the hardware space where they want to produce something and they need X amount of pre-orders to even be able to make the
Oh,
project
okay.
happen. Whereas in the arts, first of all, we're used to working with smaller budgets, or we're used to being flexible with stuff. And if we only get 80% of our goal, it doesn't mean we're a failure. It just means we have to, reallocate things, and it's still a
Okay.
success. So flexible is huge. Secondly, we're global. So we've had campaigners and contributions in almost every country on earth.
Oh, wow.
It's exciting.
So
because
others
it's
aren't?
really-
Others are limited to maybe just the U.S. alone?
Yeah, there are ones that are country specific. So it's for us, we really wanted to have this global platform, and we're available in multiple currencies and multiple languages. So we really wanted to be this inclusive movement, kind of.
Oh, wow. So you have like
Yeah.
an international team, and you're probably like just on the state side.
Right, yeah, we have offices only in the United States, but we have ambassadors in many different countries, and we've got an international lead who sits here with me in New York, and she's always strategizing on the best ways to keep up our global presence.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and then let's see, probably two more are really important. Number one, that we're global, sorry, not global, I just said that. That we're open, so there are no
Okay.
gatekeepers. So what that means is that anyone can put a project up on Indiegogo, and
Okay.
we believe that we shouldn't be the ones to judge whether or not you're going to be successful, that it's really up to the crowd.
Okay.
And that was a really important founding idea that our co-founders had, because they all had come to the idea of crowdfunding separately and all had experience trying to raise money and were very frustrated by how it worked. And they were
Okay.
like, why do there have to be gatekeepers? There's no reason. We should just create this
Okay.
platform and
Okay.
let people take it to the crowd.
Um,
Yeah.
Another thing I just want to interject real quick. I know that some other crowdfunding platforms, they have restrictions on what you can offer as perks. Like, do you have restrictions?
We don't restrict anyone. We advise campaigners to offer things that they can deliver on, because obviously we don't want people promising something they can't deliver on. And then on the flip side, we advise contributors to really look into a project and make sure that they feel like they're going to get what they are promised.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Okay. And can you offer? Can you do sweepstakes or raffles or stuff like that? I mean, or is it just?
Yeah, we limit no raffles or sweepstakes.
Okay. Gotcha. I was just asking like that because I had research into some crowdfunding and those were some specific restrictions, like no raffles, no sweepstakes. You can't offer perks that aren't produced by yourself, which kind of makes sense because you want to offer perks that are productions of the project itself.
Right.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Well, Crista, this has been like a really informative, awesome interview. I have one more question for you. This is the fun question.
Great.
What was your what's your favorite album, and what would your life be like if it never existed?
Oh my goodness! Wow. Okay, probably. Well, I'm going to answer this as a classical musician, so
Gotcha.
I would say my favorite pieces of music are the Bach cello suites, and it's actually what I'm playing in my video, my campaign video, and there's so many fantastic recordings of these, but I particularly like Rostropovich's recording. He's one of those old great Russian masters, and he just does an amazing job, and they're so beautiful, and it's just such a human and amazing piece of music, so I'd have to go with that.
So your campaign video would not exist without those pieces of music.
There you go.
Okay.
my kid, that's the whole reason he recorded them.
All right, excellent, Crista. Thanks for coming on, and hope to stay in touch. And guys, just make sure to check out Indiegogo, man. It looks like that's a great way for you to take control of your career and start funding your music and your projects.
Great, and I'm here to help.
Okay, yeah, and actually, she's. How can we get in touch with you? What's the easiest way?
Directly with me. I'd say my Twitter handle. I could share the links with you, but my Twitter handle is Gogo Crista, and then it's just Crista@Indiegogo.com for my email. So feel free to reach out if you want to chat.
Okay, awesome. All right,
great.
Thanks again. See you later.
All right, thank you.
And that wraps up this week's episode of Seeds of Music. On the show today, we had Crista Kende from Indiegogo. Make sure to check out her links below. We have linked up the Indiegogo Field Guide, which is your A to Z resource for Indiegogo campaigners. Also, we have her campaign linked up below and her personal site where she explains everything that she does for artists. So the first thing I want you guys to know beyond those links there is that Crista is a resource available for you if you are thinking about using Indiegogo to fund your next project, fund your next album. Reach out to her. She's there to help you. She's a free resource to tap into. So make sure you take advantage of that if it's crowdfunding is in your future. Next, sign up for the email newsletter. If you haven't already, go ahead and do that. It is the best way to stay up to date with everything that happens at Seeds of Music, and we got lots of great things going on to close the end of this year out. So just make sure you get on that email list. Next, like and share this interview if you liked it and you want to share. Click that share button below, click the like button, share on Facebook, Twitter, anything that you like to frequent social media-wise, just please share it through that. Next, comment on the video. What's your take on Indiegogo? And do you know anybody who you would like to see interviewed, or you yourself would like to be interviewed? Just send me an email to kyle.seedsmusic@gmail.com. I answer every single email. It takes about no more than 2 days for me to get to it. So don't be shy, and remember, we are the future of music.